Hello, and welcome back to the Primal Becoming podcast. I'm Mary. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be sharing a little interview I had with the lovely Zoe. Zoe and I got connected through the Primal Bod program, and I've been so inspired by how she threads the primal way of being throughout her life. So I knew I had to chat with her and share that here with you all. In this episode, we discuss how Zoe was a very early adopter of keto and carnivore, and how she found this way of eating through her endurance sport, and how even as a young girl, her intuition told her that removing sugar and processed carbs would be helpful for her. We also discuss her sobriety journey, the link between going primal and getting sober. Plus, we delve a bit into how a primal lifestyle helps her manage her ADHD and ASD diagnoses. I think this is a really interesting perspective that may help many women who receive a diagnosis later in life, just as Zoe did. Additionally, we touch on why Zoe felt called to join Primal Bod, even though she already had a storied past of eating mostly meat and kind of already living primally, and how her joining Primal Bod, all of that coincided with her going and staying sober. I love Zoe's story and her journey, and this is exactly why I started this podcast, to share how meat eating, a return to who we are, a primal lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, helps us as women peel back the layers so we can access something way deeper inside of us and enter our chapter of becoming whoever it is we were made to be. I really hope you enjoy this conversation. I could chat with Zoe for ages, so I'm impressed that we kept it at just over an hour. If any of what we discussed resonated with you, please leave me a comment and let me know. I would love to hear from you. Okay, on to the interview. I thought that we could start with just a brief introduction of who you are, your name, where you live, where you're from.
Okay. Hi, my name is Zoe. I live in Normandy, France. And
Where are you from originally?
oh yes, so that's a really long question to answer. I was born in Montreal, Canada. I grew up in Luxembourg, and I then never stayed in one place for more than a couple of years at a time, but mostly the UK. I did a long stint in the UK, and then back to the continent for a while, came back here and have been going around Europe for a bit, and now settling in Normandy, where the family is from originally.
Wow, you've been so many places.
Yeah, it's been very tiring.
But now you're
Very
settling.
rich. Yeah,
In
absolutely.
your cute Normandy place.
My cute derelict farmhouse. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I thought we could start with talking about, it's weird to say before,
Yeah.
but what did your diet and lifestyle, your ways of eating look like before you even had conceived of a carnivore meat eating primal approach?
So I've been dipping in and out of keto, carnivore, ketovore, I think some people call it now, for a number of years. In fact, I'd go as far back as my teenage years. That's when I first completely intuitively landed on not having bread and, the white stuff, the beige type of food. I needed to lose weight for my professional ballet exams. And I had no support, no guidance whatsoever. I just decided, and sugar. I remember thinking, I will do things differently, and I might not have the bowl of cereal with, at the time, this was early 80s, the bowl of sugar, white sugar on the table, on the breakfast table. That was kind of a staple. And I remember thinking that I used to get this great big slump after having breakfast, a real sort of energy drain type of feeling. And I thought, oh, well, let's see how it works out to not have cereal and sugar and milk, which I now realize to be such a huge carb bomb. And it worked. It gave me loads of energy. And I now realize I must have been producing ketones, lost weight. I became quite cut. That was the first time my muscles started popping out, really. And then fast forward, career in the city, beginning of just a few years in the city of London as a broker. I then had my children, and the wheels really fell off at that point. I spent the next 10 years with really bad insulin resistance, diagnosed actually. I hit 95 kilos, not pregnant, and lots of symptoms, lots of issues. Mental health was awful. And I eventually sort of clawed my way out of there on metformin. I'd been put on metformin, and little by little lost the weight, started exercising again. I'd always been sporty, and again naturally just went towards lowering the carbs. I didn't yet know what carbs were. Truthfully, I didn't really know where they were in my food, as I see many people, now not necessarily understand that milk is a carb. Carrots are carby. All the root veg are carby. They might not be as, they might not have as high a glycemic index as, the white powder stuff that I used to put in cereal when I was little. But it's still all adds up. And so I started looking into it. I started understanding that a little bit. My sport was, I really wanted to do a triathlon. That was my dream. I just wanted to empower myself and do one of these events. And I did a little tiny one, really, really small distance. And I did well. And that kind of became a self-feeding thing where, no pun intended, where I wanted to get better at the sport and feel better, and which led me to understanding things, that sort of whole system of energy production in the body whilst burning fat, and carrying on that sort of gentle downward progression of weight loss. And eventually I came across I got a coach. First of all, I got a triathlon coach, Michelle Dillon, who's an ex-Olympian, and we became firm friends. And through her, I met a sports nutritionist called Barry Murray, PhD in sports nutrition, up from Loughborough University. And he's the first one who really sort of dialed me in to ketovore, let's put it that way, but mostly the importance of insulin, ATP, glycogen, how it all kind of meshes together, the system, how it works, the Krebs cycle. That was the first time. And at the same time, sort of sending me down this rabbit hole of people who were talking about things differently. Dr. Jack Kruse, and it was the early days, but there were lots of people just coming through little by little. And that was really when I started understanding the system a bit more and experimenting with it more, which led me to do Ironman and look really quite cut then, before I had my third child and remarried. And so here I am.
It's like you were like on the cutting edge of like the carnivore keto stuff
without having any awareness of it whatsoever. I mean, I was already considered weird, for sure, very much so. I got a lot of pushback from people immediately around me, but at the same time, the results were there. And for the first time since meeting Barry, I had like backing, I had support of people who had, whose name was preceded by DR and things like that. And suddenly realizing that there was a whole host of researchers, really cutting edge, as you say, researchers who were speaking up about the fact that we may have had taken a wrong turn as a species,
Yeah.
in terms of nutrition. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting how you talk about, in your earlier days as like a younger girl, you kind of innately or perhaps intuitively have this
Yeah.
feeling of like, I'm going to stop reaching for these
Mm.
types of foods. And maybe a part of us when we're younger is, and as we're older too, is that's rooted in maybe feelings of like morality or like your vanity and really
Yeah.
wanting to look a certain way. But it's so interesting how you've kind of can track it throughout your life. And it's like, no, for you, it's become a way to properly fuel your body
Yeah.
to do your endurance sport. And
Yeah.
you were literally working with people who were trained in doing
Yes,
this.
I know, which was amazing. So it was such a light bulb moment when I came across these people, just as it did when I came across Primal Bod. It was that same sort of, these are my people. But looking back at the very early days, I think I also, as a child, young teenager, recognized addiction. I knew that the really sugary stuff, the really sweet stuff, was doing something to me that I didn't quite like. I felt dependent on it, yet I didn't feel that it fueling me. It was just satisfying a need. And I saw that. I felt
From
that.
early on, you were saying.
Yeah.
I think that's so crazy. Crazy is not the right word, but like I could not recognize that in myself as a young person
Mm,
because I probably to the addictive nature that you're
yeah.
speaking of, it's like the brain can't even conceive of a thought like this because it's hooked on the sugar and
Yeah.
the energy drinks and
Or
all that stuff.
sure. Or maybe my addictive nature was already slightly above the norm.
Mm,
As I've said to you before, as I've shared with you before, I then went on to become an alcoholic. And it's actually something that is talked about a lot in recovery programs, is how very often we look back at our childhoods and it starts there with sugar. So, and I'm not saying anyone else is not hooked on sugar, but I think maybe as alcoholics, we have a slight edge on that one. It's just a little step above. Yeah.
yeah, and there's probably some research or insight maybe that you're privy to of people who then stop one addiction like alcohol and
Yeah.
then move on to like overeating
Yeah,
and yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a very common theme. Well, in fact, in some recovery programs, having sugar in the early sobriety days whilst you're detoxing is really encouraged. They literally say, go and have ice cream. If you want to grab a drink, instead of grabbing a drink, grab some sugar. It'll help with the cravings. Now, I have seen many very successfully recovered alcoholics who definitely did that and it worked for them. I also see a lot of problems with overeating, with recovery, and which, goes completely against my experience because I stopped drinking at the same time as I started Primal Bod and went, carb-less when I'd been sort of, cheating more and more. And it was very much reflected in my health and my weight and everything. So I all I know is that my recovery didn't include any relapsing, any craving at all. Not even maybe the first week, if that. But I can't help thinking that a lot of these recovery programs need a bit of updating. I mean, the whole world needs updating. What am I talking about? We need to change the whole thing. But specifically, it is a really interesting sort of topic, that link between alcoholism and carb addiction.
Yeah, I wanted to actually ask you about this, about how your sobriety journey coincided with your, like, let's say your primal journey. And
Yeah.
it's interesting that you say that there's at least some recommendations out there to grab the sugar.
Yeah.
I feel like you were like pedal to the floor. You're like,
Yeah.
I'll throw that stuff out. I'll throw the alcohol out. And I
That's
heard
it.
something recently. It's like, we don't get rid of habits, we replace habits.
Yeah.
And I don't know how true I believe that to be, but it's like, if you're getting rid of the sugar and all the other processed carbs and all these other things in your life, you've already removed them for the most part anyway, and
Yeah.
you're getting rid of the alcohol, it's like you really have to look in the mirror and face all the other stuff, because you don't have much to hide behind anymore.
No, that's right. That's right. And alcohol is a very, very powerful, it's such a thick curtain behind which you can hide all sorts of things. So I think opening that curtain up, removing that filter, the denial, the alcohol-based denial, I think is quite particular to alcohol. Yeah, when you talk about habits, but if people say we only replace them, I don't know if I agree with that, because I think as soon as you've identified a habit, then that's your way, that's the doorway to undoing that. And if you have that pathway, if you have the ability to identify these habits, then as soon as you pick another one up, you can identify the path. And that's all you need is the awareness. And then you don't replace one with another. You just keep going on that journey.
Yeah. So you said that when you started your Primal Bod program, you then stopped drinking, and you didn't feel you had cravings for alcohol past like the first week.
No.
So then could we extrapolate that a primal diet, a carnivore diet, could be a really unique tool for people who are struggling with alcohol addiction?
100%. And I think that's sort of where my battle ahead lies. And I'm still falling on very deaf ears on that one. There are so many conditions, so many problems, so many issues we're facing that need a primal approach to undo them. Alcoholism is just one of them. And I just think it's fascinating that the answer to all of these problems is the same one answer. There's just one thing to do.
Which is?
Go primal.
Yeah. To eat more meat.
To eat more meat. But yeah, definitely. I mean, meat is the quickest, most efficient way of undoing decades of damage, right? As we all know, we have the ability to eat other things than meat. We have an incredible ability, actually, as omnivores go. Omnivores by necessity, let's not forget that, but which means that we can eat the wrong thing for our species for quite a long time before it really shows. But at that point, when it shows, the quickest way is through meat, for sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of crazy that we have like a protein craze right now. You see like in the supermarket all of these like products that are like with added protein.
I know.
But it's like, what is that protein even? And it's like there's an aversion to simply just eating the meat.
Yeah.
It's like we subconsciously or consciously know we need the protein, yet we can't we can't achieve it in the most simple way.
So for me, it's not just an aversion to meat. it's an aversion to not doing something. And that applies to so many things in modern life. It's much easier for us. We are so conditioned to adding things to make things better, just like you said, added protein in all sorts of weird and wonderful non-foods. Barry Murray used to call it the law of subtraction. And it's such a powerful concept for me. How is it that we have put ourselves in a situation where we will connect with adding a totally manufactured source of non-animal protein in a highly processed food in the first place, wrapped in plastic, but we find it incredibly hard psychologically, morally. We do not have the plasticity of thought to go back to where we came from, which is eating the source of food that is going to help us thrive as humans rather than, individuals. And that seems a mind-bending effort that people have rendered themselves incapable of.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head with the, let's say, propensity to want to add, to want to complicate rather than to simplify.
Yeah.
And an aversion to simplification.
Yeah.
It's like, even within, let's say, like the primal, not maybe necessarily the entire primal community online, you still see the ads and the content around so many products and things that you can buy.
Yeah.
Like, I get the red light craze. And of course, if you live somewhere where in the winter you're not really getting much sunlight, sure. You can also go outside.
You can go outside and you can use the cold. I mean, obviously, if you're an uncoupled haplotype, if you're not, then okay, maybe, but there are still, I think, 5 steps at least you could sort of go down before you start parting with incredibly good money to get yourself a red light device.
Yeah, I'm curious about what drives us as humans, that consumerists desire to want to purchase these things. I myself, I'll see something, I'm like, ooh, that's like kind of chic. I want to have that at my house and feel a certain way. And then I'm like, no, I could literally go outside and put my bare feet on the grass and probably achieve better results.
I think we're a strange species.
Well, I was going to say this goes well into my next question, which is kind of beyond the meat eating.
Yeah.
How else does your life look primal, let's say?
Yeah, so I'm your local weirdo, I think, in many ways.
In the like ancient community, you'd be like the witch living outside
100%.
of the town. People would go to you when shit was going down.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm the one who seems to be, delivering uncomfortable messages like, don't wear a bra, it's really bad for you. Don't put anything on your skin that you wouldn't put in your mouth. All of these things, I started making my own face cream from marrow bone fat a few years back, and making my own toothpaste out of, sort of coconut oil and ground down eggshells. And I try and be as low plastic as I possibly can. That's a really big thing for me, because, even trying quite hard, you're surrounded by it. Wearing natural fibers, and these are really sort of, it's trickling through, but even just 5 years ago, that was really weird. I'm not even going to talk about the barefoot thing, okay? I have been almost shamed out of running clubs.
Yes. I think you should talk about it.
Out of social running groups because I was wearing Vibrams.
I think it's really bizarre that people have, like, I don't have this, I don't even know what the word is. If someone's doing something, I don't really feel called upon myself to ask a question, especially if they're not hurting anyone. So I can't imagine what your choice of shoes has to do with anyone else.
No, but I think it was half in jest, but it was just really funny. People found it really, really funny. At the same time, it's a little confronting, and I get that sometimes you can trigger people because they might already have some sort of thought in there that is a little dissonant. And then you come up with something that is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to think about it that way, because then you have to suddenly consider that those thousands of euros, dollars, pounds, whatever you've spent along your running, career into trainers, proper running shoes and all of that, gait analysis, was for nothing. And not only was it for nothing, but you've injured repeatedly along the way and spent more money trying to undo the injury caused by the thing you spent money on in the first place to make you run better. I think it's such, any of these things, the face cream, the grounding, barefoot, all of these things are just the tip of the iceberg in terms of having to rethink everything. And that's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think you're all the way correct there. It's people see you doing something and they're triggered by it because it's as if you're trying to make a statement against what they're doing, which is it's usually not. And it is speaking to some small probably inclination that they have within themselves that they're not ready to confront.
Yeah. Not ready to let go of it. No.
Yeah, I think that also is so prevalent when it comes to the way that we eat.
Yeah.
It can be super uncomfortable for the people that you're around to see you eat in a certain way.
Yeah.
And as if me eating something is saying that you also need to eat it. Yes, ideally in a perfect world, you would also be eating a lot of meat. But what I'm eating for my lunch is not me saying you also need to eat this for your lunch.
No. And the best thing I've ever heard about that, which I carry with me always, it was something along the lines of asking the question to yourself. All you need to do is consider if they would eat differently to make you feel happier or to make you better. And the answer is always absolutely not. None of these people would ever change a thing in their eating to make my life easier, right? So why should I?
Yeah, I haven't heard that. Maybe back to your primal ways. You mentioned it a little bit before, getting cold. Is that something that's been, I don't know, game-changing for you or really important?
Yeah. So as a child, I was always known as the one who enjoyed the cold. I was born in Montreal in January. And the joke in the family was always that I came from the cold, and that's why I needed to reconnect with it regularly. I was always super attracted by the sea. For me, again, as a child, it was something vital. When I came to understand, cold thermogenesis and the benefits of cold, it was for me, again, like the carbs, it was like, aha, oh yes, that makes sense. I have felt this before.
So do you go cold swimming?
Yes, I swim in the sea all year round, but I find that it's not the same sort of swimming, okay? I tend to dip when it gets really cold from November till, now. It's not really cold anymore. And the buzz you get from the coldest in February is, you really miss it when the temperatures start creeping up again. When I haven't been living near the sea, I've also got a big oak barrel which used to contain port. Interesting choice for an alcoholic. In which I get to dip. I've hooked up a little.
But that's kind of like a beautiful metaphor in a way. It's second life is,
Yeah, that's it. I'm glad you think so. I think it's, slightly ironic, but in a really beautiful way.
Yeah.
So I do that, and I can really feel it if I haven't been going for a week, if I'm traveling or busy or whatever, and I haven't been doing it for a week. I really feel the difference. Oh my goodness, it's painful. Yeah.
Yeah, I hesitate to say this, but it feels addicting.
It is
Yeah.
addictive. So maybe there is a thing in which our well-being, our ability to thrive is linked, it has got an addictive element to it. Maybe addiction was given to us for a good reason. It just kind of went a little bit out of hand because we developed, I think, in an unforeseen way, But maybe addiction is there for a reason.
That's a really interesting angle that I haven't considered. And probably our words of addiction and addicted, they don't do justice to the feelings that we're talking about actually that drive us to want to feel those ways. But I think it's interesting to frame these, let's say, primal lifestyle things of cold plunging and eating in a certain way in the addiction light, because you'll also see so many people online who are probably also trying to sell you something, sell their program, their dietitians, what have you, saying, that this approach to life, this approach to eating is too hardcore and it's too aggressive and it's not giving you enough, I don't even know, freedom.
Yes.
Yet I've found freedom.
Absolutely.
Freedom is actually the right word, because I feel like this is an aggressive word, enslaved.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's, it might be aggressive, but I think it's very representative.
Yeah, I felt, let's say, trapped in an approach.
Yeah.
Or by the things that I was eating and doing.
Yeah.
And found freedom in the things that so many people say restrict our freedom.
That's it. Yeah. Which is a real sort of, again, it's been gaslit for me. It makes me so cross. It's like we've built up these lives, this society, to gaslight us about our natural life, our primal life, on a grand scale. It's really difficult to understand how we got here, actually. But, to go back to your point of being enslaved, that's exactly what I connected with as a child when I stopped eating cereal with sugar. That's exactly what I felt. I thought, this thing is the boss of me.
That's so interesting that as a child you could feel that. I think that speaks to the innate nature of these types of thoughts and these truths.
That intuition, which I have spent more time quelling, try to shush it for way longer than I try to listen to it. The reason why I can remember this is because it's one of the few times where I heard it and listened to it.
Do you feel as if let's say, the longer you've leaned into a primal lifestyle, the louder your intuition has gotten?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Same. She won't shut up, my intuition.
And the creativity, right?
Yeah.
The drive, the dreaming, the acting on the dreams, the belief, the self-belief, the self-worth. Oh, so much.
That gets really well into another question I wanted to ask you, which is, in your opinion, beyond like physical results of like weight loss or changing how your body looks, what do you think women specifically stand to benefit from adopting a more primal way of living, transitioning to just eating more meat even?
It's a really profound question, and I'm probably not the best person to ask, because one of the other realizations I've had not so long ago is that I have ADHD and also ASD, so I'm on the spectrum. And I like things to be quite literal. So for me, although I've just, explained to you that I thought all of these amazing things happened to me coming out of Primal, but what excites me most of all is hormones. And for women, I think it's such a pivotal thing. We are made to procreate. We are made to provide babies for the survival of the species. And which is why I think our, sex hormones in general are so central to who we are. And for me, if those are in the right place, all the rest around it will happen. So for me, it's hormones. It's hormone regulation. It's being who we are supposed to be. Then within that, once that's in place, then everything else can happen. If you're a creative person, that's when it's going to flow out of you. If you're a sports person, that's when your performance will happen at that point. So we have everything to gain, absolutely everything to gain. Being heard, mental health, I mean, that's such an obvious one. But the ability to be fertile, I think, has been really overlooked. I come from a generation, I was raised on the pill, and then all the other stuff, antibiotics and all the stuff that was added, because clearly as human beings, we are not able to exist without all of these added things. But and back in my youth, the huge worry was unwanted pregnancies. So it was all about preventing unwanted pregnancy. 40 years later, we're now in a place where having children, it's difficult for most now. It's rampant. It's so hard. The biggest business is fertility. Well, apart from chemotherapy, that's also quite a big business. But GLP-1s.
We won't get into those.
We won't get into that. Statins, yeah. But, it's, and it was sold to us as, this is a pill, this is a chemical way for you to be in control of your fertility. My body, my choice. You as a person, you can decide to not have children at a certain point in your life so that you can then have them when you choose. It hasn't quite worked out like that. And I think it's also had a host of implications for me as a sports person, as a woman in sport. It was kind of accepted that if your body fat percentage dropped below 15% or whatever, or it doesn't even need to get that low quite often for a period to disappear, that's a good thing. For you to not have a period as an athlete is a good thing. And if you're still having a period, even if your body fat percentage is really low, you will then go to other methods to not have a period.
Is that, sorry to interrupt you, is that seen as a good thing because it's as if you're not tied to the cycle anymore? You can just kind of be like a man.
Right. Well, it's a real detriment because, you don't get to choose the day of the race, the day of the competition. If you're on the first day of your period and you still have to compete, you still have to do it, especially, professional athletes. There's no choice. You can't work your professional life around your period, around your cycle. If you have the choice to make the cycle disappear, that's what you do. And I think we've really tampered with ourselves.
I think this is interesting because you talking about, the hormones and fertility being a huge, let's say, positive effect of our primal lifestyle. While on the one hand, a period gets in the way maybe of you competing at your highest peak. On the other hand, I've seen so much online lately about women experiencing really, really horrible periods.
Yeah.
And
that's another byproduct. Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't say it was ever terrible, but before transitioning to more primal way of living, it was not like enjoyable. I wouldn't say it's enjoyable now, but it's definitely manageable, and I can go to work and I can live my life. Would I want to maybe run a marathon on the first day of my period? No. But I'm at a place now where I can, live my life fully,
Yeah.
and it's not something that's getting in the way. And then, the more it's talked about, of course, we want to support each other as women, but
Yeah.
then it becomes this normalized thing that we're meant to be on the couch out for 3 days or even the 3 days leading up.
Yeah.
You're out a whole week, and
Mm.
it seems bizarre that then to maybe push back on that narrative to say, well, there's another way, or you
Yes.
can at least try something else,
That's it. That's it.
is then the bizarre approach.
Mm.
And yeah, I just find that really interesting, because I guess maybe I'm the type of person who is like, I'll try anything.
Right.
You're
Same
promising
here.
me some sort of relief. Okay, I'll give it a shot.
Absolutely. And I mean, I did too. I feel slightly cheated in the way that it was never made clear that fertility cycle was so central to our health. Okay. It was portrayed as something a bit separate to me, or maybe I misinterpreted it, but it was kind of a separate thing. And you can choose to have this or not. And not only that, but you can choose absolutely when you become a parent. It's all at your fingertips. You're in control of it. So that's BS, as we know. But yeah, as I said, it's just not being truthful about how central it is to health.
Yeah, it's like another vital sign for women. I've heard people talk about that.
Absolutely.
How you experience your
Absolutely.
period. I
Yeah.
could ask you about what you were talking about with your ADHD diagnosis and your other diagnosis. Is how do you think primal lifestyle, meat eating, these types of things have impacted your diagnosis, or the way that you see your mentality in those?
I'm very grateful that I actually am such a late diagnoser in some ways, because my primal journey started almost at the same time, which means that I didn't have to undo things like, taking medication for my ADHD, and then going primal and comparing. I just went primal straight away. So, but what primal has done for me is to give me that certainty that I can manage this. If I am the best body, the best person, the best mind that I can be, which is what primal gives me, it'll work out. I will find a way. Just like, for the menopause, I seem to sort of swat away all the HRT, all the stuff that was supposed to be added to make me a more palatable human being, or to make it easier for me, so primal is just the way to manage any of these things as we are supposed to. That's it.
I think it's that simple.
That simple. I see ADHD as a real gift in many ways, autism as well. It gives me the ability to hyperfocus on things. And I've read that ADHD is potentially one of these traits from our hunter-gatherer days, because we make phenomenal hunters. This is great for us. This is like, getting the dopamine from following something, and then once it's done, you can just kind of disappear into something else. Yeah, I see it as more of an advantage, like any of these things that come from self-knowledge.
I had the reflection today about a certain period in my life where I was prescribed Adderall without ever getting an ADD diagnosis or an ADHD diagnosis, which I really don't think I have at all, but I somehow managed to get my hands on a little prescription. And I had the reflection today that I used to be so dependent on those pills, especially in my university days.
Yeah.
For both my undergrad and my master's. And it's like I needed it. And
Well, I
now
mean,
I'm like, I can just sit down and get to work and think properly, because my brain is running on the proper fuel that it needs.
The beautiful natural dopamine.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really telling. And am I mistaken in thinking that Adderall is amphetamines, basically?
No, it is.
It
It's
is,
like
right?
says it on the bottle. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an amazing tool. They use it in all sorts of
Well, yeah, it's been
wonderful
around
ways.
for a while.
Yeah. They've
Yeah.
used it. They use it in the military, still do. I mean, it's fascinating. And actually, that's one thing we haven't discussed is also the dopamine issues we are facing, right? That's the dopamine pollution. So I think Primal in that sense is really good at rebalancing you, because if you're really pulling on all the levers, understanding that eating is only one of them, you get to make your dopamine, to rebalance your dopamine anyway. So even if you have an ADHD sort of component to it, it's going to be probably better than someone without ADHD who's on their phone all the time or not mindful of how spiking dopamine artificially makes us crash in a really uncontrolled way.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that at least you've been on this journey for a lot longer than I have, but when I, for example, started eating primally, you no longer get the dopamine from eating like crap
That's
or
it.
eating in front of the TV, eating
Yeah.
late at night.
Nope.
Then it was like those first few weeks, it was like, okay, and what can I do then? Okay, I'll watch reality TV, for 2 hours. And then it's kind of like, oh, it doesn't, my brain is becoming more online and I'm like, well, it doesn't feel good either, does it?
Yeah.
I guess I could go for a walk. I guess I could sit outside. And I feel like I'm always the girl in the group who's always been on a diet or who's always doing something like this. So then whenever I mention anything, my friends are like, oh God, will you shut up?
Yes. What is
Such
it
a
now?
party pooper.
What is it now?
Yeah. And it's like kind of crazy to be like, yeah, I don't eat in front of my TV anymore. I do occasionally watch reality TV. I'm really trying not to scroll on my phone. I'm really trying to just, not get these fake dopamine hits, but I catch myself actually more often than I would like to admit of being like, oh, I want to just make something and sit in front of the couch and watch TV.
Sure.
It's like I'm fantasizing about it.
And that's okay too, because the huge difference here is that you've stepped through the door. You have this awareness, you have this knowledge. And the quickest way of getting there is bearing in mind it's not necessarily a destination, right? It's a journey. But you're doing the food, and that's going to have the biggest impact. I think without the food, without that aligned, is it an impossible task maybe to address the artificial dopamine? Possibly. So the way I see it is that people who aren't eating primally have so much less of a chance to getting there anyway. And as I said, to have the awareness for me is everything. Doesn't mean you're not going to ever do it or not want to do it. And again, that's okay,
I never say never, so I won't say I never watch reality TV or I never, chill out on the couch. It's not that. But I think it's really interesting what you said about it's like the primal food is like your gateway into doing it.
It's the
approaching
quickest.
these other things. Yeah.
It's so efficient. It's so efficient and it's so quick. And you can see it in your figures. I mean, if you're testing your ketones and your blood sugar, whatever, you could be, grounding, living outside, screen-free, in not too many sort of barely clothed for a hell of a long time before you get into ketosis.
You wouldn't have like a data point to help you realize, okay, I'm moving in a good direction.
You'd be going at it for some time before you got a result.
Yeah, and it's maybe you're feeling something, but it's not as measurable as other things that can help you sustain your change, let's say.
Yeah, and I think just on a chemical level, the switch will just not happen
As fast.
and it does need to be dramatic at one point because it's a switch, right?
So now you're talking, for maybe people who are unfamiliar, is the kind of, let's say, necessity of ketosis
Yeah,
and burning ketones.
yeah, fat for fuel.
Which is interesting because we could have people listening who are carnivore, who are maybe eating primally but aren't entering ketosis.
I don't know how you could be strict carnivore, and not ever be in ketosis. You would automatically have been in it at some point.
Yeah.
Right? That the switch would have happened at one point.
Yeah.
You might then be overeating chronically, too much fat, or just overeating in general and never draining your glycogen stores and becoming, sort of crashing your ketones. But by definition, you've been there at one point or another.
Yeah. Maybe this is a good segue into talking about Primal Bod a little bit, because that's kind of how we've met.
Yeah.
We both followed Primal Bod. For me, that was kind of my entryway into a more primal meat eating way. I was aware of all the other cold and light pieces.
Okay.
And so I appreciated how the program brought it all together. But your journey is different because you were totally aware of many of these things beforehand. So it's interesting then, as someone who had a lot of knowledge and wisdom in the space, why you decided to join the program.
Yeah, so what I didn't know was that I was battling with alcoholism. So I just wasn't able to get the results that I wanted, even when I was being good and really not having, carbs, being very controlled with what I was eating, probably to make room for my drinking. And I knew that Primal Bod had cracked a code just from what I saw on social media. Those clips, every one of those clips, I knew chimed, right?
Yeah, it's like she's, at least in a lot of her older clips, the way that they angled the camera, it was like she was speaking directly at you.
Absolutely.
And you were like, oh, damn.
Absolutely.
She sees me.
And I was like, yeah. Someone else who kind of thinks like, and I was also in a slightly dejected space where I'd been told so much. I was surrounded by people who thought I was crazy. And in fact, and the results weren't showing either. So I knew I needed help with putting it together and understanding how to measure it. That was a real revelation. And then when I realized what it was based on, which was Tom's type 1 diabetes, it all made so much sense to me. And I knew it would be my, carnivore university, my primal university. So I may have had quite a bit of background and I may have experienced some of it, but I hadn't been able to put it together like she did.
Yeah, and I think that's something that some pushback that I've seen online of people saying this is not new information.
No, it's not.
But yeah, okay. She didn't, but it's like, has anybody else put it together in such a way and in such a structure that you're on the 12-week time clock? You gotta do something. You have to act on this knowledge.
And also specifically aimed at women.
Yeah.
No one has literally connected those dots in that way. And with very old information, as she often says, pick up any physiology and anatomy book. It's all in there. And it is. It really is.
Yeah.
It blows my mind that to look back at all these things now with that knowledge, having had the Primal Bod experience, it throws a different light on everything.
Yeah. I also love your university. It is so much knowledge, but I do enjoy that it's practical and in many
Yeah.
ways about how you can tangibly,
And as you say,
what you tangibly do.
finite. That's it. That's it. In 12 weeks, you're like, boom, boom, boom. You know, for someone like me with hyperfocus, brilliant. 12 weeks. I can do anything for 12 weeks, you know. I'll just follow this to the T. Brilliant. Thank you.
It brings me to my last question for you, which is, I'm assuming that you are interacting online, but perhaps you're not. But maybe talking on how Primal Bod specifically focuses on women, what do you think many modern or online discourses that cover carnivore, meat eating, primal eating are missing when it comes to us as women?
Yeah. I think it's that bridge between our ability to make fat and you know, fat is the diamond of the body. That's the crucial thing about the difference between men and women. And unless you understand that, you will never have the results that men have. I mean, to put a man in ketosis is so easy. It's harder to keep a man fueled enough that their metabolism doesn't slow down. But then again, if it does, the consequences are much less extreme than they are for us. So I think it's that, yeah, the awareness that our sex hormones are geared, make us the best fat makers around, and the sort of, to be able to carry a pregnancy through a famine and for the survival of the species. And I think it's that thing in particular which has been such a revelation and is such an important concept. And I think that's why also, you know, other scientists who have addressed the women's issue and who are looking into it, you know, much more deeply, are still skirting around that fact and are still sort of discussing whether you should have a bit of porridge or a lot of porridge, or, you know, whether you should have, you're still kind of, you're still trying to manipulate variables that just shouldn't be in the equation at all.
Yes. When I stumble upon like the carnivore bros online and these like bro scientists, it's like, it's almost as if my brain can't listen.
Yeah.
It's nice to have been introed into a more primal way, a carnivore approach in a specific women's group.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I just like can't listen to these dudes because I'm like, you don't know what it's like.
And, you know, and I love that for you. I'm so happy that's how you were introduced to it, because I wasn't. I was, you know, in with the bro.
Yeah.
You're coming at it from Ironman, you know, which is a sort of
Ironman.
Yeah, we're exactly Ironman. Women are in a minority there to start off with anyway, and then double minority for being low carb and
triple minority for your shoes.
And that's just like,
you're in a league of
you
your
know,
own.
no, just there should be a separate race.
Yeah.
But so you know, I really love that you came at it from the right place, because I feel I didn't. Still saw the value in it, which is, I guess, how potent it is, you know, how powerful this solution is. But yeah, I mean, they're not relatable, right? I don't think they're even relatable for guys, these bros, but they seem to provide inspiration to them, so that's fine.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased they're around, because this community needs to be bigger, not smaller, and certainly not exclusive. And but yeah, it needs to grow.
They're definitely somebody's cup of tea, and so thankfully they're able to capture that audience.
Yeah.
Maybe one more final question.
Go on.
Practically, I think it's interesting for people to know that you're doing kind of endurance sport and you're eating mostly meat. So then what does that look like day to day? Because I think people would probably be shocked by how much you have to eat.
Yeah. So in terms of protein, I remember even in the early days of Primal Bod, you know, when everyone else on the Zooms was going, oh, I cannot do 90 grams of protein in a day. That's just crazy. You know, it's like getting stuck in my gullet. And I was thinking, okay, 90 grams is a good breakfast, but that's about it. And I really quickly went to 150, which was for me quite restrictive. And I now don't really calculate because I eyeball it and I'm, you know, near as damn it spot on, but I can get up to 300 grams.
In a day.
And yeah,
Wow.
and I will then, but really the biggest addition for me, apart from the protein, has been the fat. And that's the way, you know, and I am clearly one of those people who will tap into the fat straight away and bypass the ketones, because I've been a low ketone girl all along as well, despite, you know, the absolute beautiful downward curve of weight and fat burning. For me, 0.8 is like, that's fire. So the more, if I train more, I just add more fat, which is also very efficient because it's not a lot in terms of volume, right?
Yeah.
So that's a really easy way to fuel it.
What does 300-ish grams of protein look like for you? How many eggs is that?
Yeah. I don't know. I never eat less than six eggs in one sitting, and it's mostly twice 6 eggs a day, and that's a little side. That's my side dish.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I saw a video the other day that was like, what is your egg limit before you get the yuck? And this woman was saying 3, but for me, I can't do more than 4.
Right.
Whenever I do 5, oh God.
Really?
So maybe I'll
Yeah.
get to your 6 one day.
I'm sure there's hope. But I tell you what, the 300, and I don't do that often, okay? But
Yeah.
and Primal Bod has been amazing for that. When you're measuring everything to start off with, is the awareness of the denser meat. So, you know, I'm not having chicken on that day, let's put it that way, because I'd be eating 3 chickens.
Yeah.
And so it'll be fillet steak. It'll be really lean, you know, bison or venison or whatever. It'll be really efficient and lots of it. And I do, you know, I love my Primal mayonnaise, homemade, which seems to sort of just let everything slide down much more easily.
Yeah. It's
Otherwise,
unfortunate how much mayonnaise helps literally everything.
I know. And that's where also vegetables will play a part, you know, tactically, just to sort of make the whole thing a little bit wetter. And then it really goes down really easily. But I genuinely have the appetite for it. I don't have to force it. Yeah, no, I never force it. Because if I don't feel up to it, then I do a fasting day. I do a 48-hour fast.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it, of
that is
getting so in tune with your body to know, all right, I just don't need it right now.
That's it.
I'll fast.
Yeah. And equally, when I'm fasting and I'm like, oh, how much longer?
Yeah.
That kind of, I hold on to that and I go, no, remember how you feel right now when you're feasting next. And you're turning your nose at your plate and you're like, oh, I'm not sure I want to finish this plate. And you go, yes, if you remember how it feels when you're fasting, you will finish your plate when you're feasting. Yeah.
I think we're laughing now. I could imagine people who are really unfamiliar with fasting would be like, how could you, that's restrictive, that's crazy, why are you depriving yourself of
Not depriving.
Yeah.
You're full of glycogen like the Michelin Man.
Yeah, because you've eaten so much previously before the fast. Yeah. I almost stopped myself, but I am going to tell this anecdote that sometimes during just like a 24 or 36 hour fast, I'll tell my husband, oh, I just want to eat a hard-boiled egg so bad. But And I can imagine someone listening who has never fasted before would be like, girl, you got to eat.
Yeah.
But it's just like sometimes things just sound so good when you're in that state.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily driven by a hunger, but
No.
just for me, it's like I want to put something in my mouth. I don't
Yes.
know.
I totally understand. I'm totally with you. No, that's it. The funniest things come up. The funniest things come up.
Yeah.
And I think it's just more self-knowledge as well, because you know how you react under these different sets of circumstances. Actually, sorry, I had a question for you, Mary. So, because it's really interesting to me, as you said, I came from an already carnivore-ish background. How did you come to it then?
I was, like I said, I'm a girl that'll try anything once.
Okay.
So I tried so many different things, and I was paleo for a really long time.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Okay.
Then I moved to be with my husband in Belgium, so I moved out of the US,
Mm.
and I found so much freedom in food in moving to Belgium
Yeah.
and less stomach issues. I know people will like drone on and on about how they can eat pasta in Italy, but not in the US. I don't know if there's like truth in that, but I,
Mm.
yeah, I was just like moved to Belgium, and then I slowly transitioned off my paleo lifestyle. I had done like keto, I had done like AIP, Whole30, so many of these
Yeah.
these diets.
So you had an ability to eat animal protein.
Yes, I've always known that meat is good for me and that I like
Yeah.
meat.
So it
And
wasn't a big stretch for you to hit 110, 120 grams of protein.
it actually was a little bit harder than I anticipated, but that is slowly, that's been much easier now that I'm more practiced at it.
Yeah.
And I think that reveals to me that while I always tried to have meat in every meal, I was definitely not eating enough.
No.
And the amount of muscle that I put on
Yeah.
just even in the past 4 months is crazy.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, because I finally have enough protein.
That's it. To overturn that lifelong protein deficit is just the most joyous thing, but it's kind of mind-bending, isn't it? And that's what I
Yeah.
was saying earlier on. You know, we were discussing that, saying meat is just such a quick, actionable lever. I was interested to know your experience on that, because I remember hearing in the early Zooms so many women really struggling with getting in, you know, even the 90 grams, and struggling with the meat, and for that to really quite quickly over the first few weeks dwindle away.
Yeah. And it becomes so much easier.
So much easier, and suddenly no one's talking about it anymore.
I think it's also interesting when I reflect back on maybe my more performative ways of eating as like a younger person, and how maybe I've like not eaten as much in front of other people for fear of what they
Yeah.
would think about me, especially men and the male gaze. And now I have no problem like putting my plate next to my husband's plate and me being like, look how much I'm eating. You gotta step up your game here.
Yeah,
sir.
exactly. Do better, right?
Yeah. And I like remember eating carrot sticks in front of my 7th grade boyfriend, and like not even daring to touch my sandwich that my mom had packed me. Like,
I know.
it's these things are obviously deep rooted in probably a lot of us, but it's so interesting that so many people would be like, you have such a restrictive diet, but I've found so much freedom in how I eat.
Yeah, because you're owning it now, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're empowered and yeah, fueling. There's nothing sexier than fueling your body properly, I think.
Oh no.
Right?
Yeah, it goes back to what you were saying about your fertility. It helps turn that part of you on.
That's
And
it.
isn't that kind of what all the desire is based on?
Yeah.
Healthy
it is.
desire.
No, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. And that sort of trying to not be unattractive by eating less or like a little bird.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness, that is such such a sexist thing, isn't it?
Yeah, like the cliche of like the woman eating the salad and like
Yeah.
the man eating the steak.
My goodness.
I'm like, I will also take the steak.
Yes. Thank you. I'll have
I'm
two.
like,
I'll have yours.
well, okay, we could talk all night.
Yeah, we could.
But maybe we'll wrap up by talking just if you want to share like what you're up to in this world. Like what's on your horizons?
Yeah, so lots of exciting things ahead of me. Number one is to stay sober and stay on my primal journey for me. Those are my rail tracks, you know.
Yeah.
Anything that happens from there will be good. But specifically, I am starting my own method, which I'm calling the ancestral method, because as you pointed out, I represent a sort of subgroup which is not really catered for right now on the sports side.
Yeah.
Endurance probably specifically. And I also happen to disagree with the fact that endurance or cardio, as it's sometimes referred to, doesn't have its place in the primal sphere. It does. It is a primal thing. And I know that because I experience it every time I do it. And I see others around me experiencing it. And I see real primal behavior, not behavior, that's not the right word. Anyway, for me, it's also a very connected, natural state of being. And it needs more research, it needs more understanding, it needs more talking about and experiencing. So that's one of the aspects that I wanted to explore and cater to. And also the fact that keto or carnivore is just kind of starting here in France. It's still very low key and it's still really weird, but it's growing and I think the time is now, and I really want to be part of that developing scene here because we've got such great produce, so you know, so many ways of being primal here, and I really want to share it. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
That's so awesome. I think that's if we can have another conversation another time about
Yay.
your endurance stuff, because I think that's so fascinating, because that's something I think about so often. We just had a marathon organized in our town.
Oh yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, what are you running from? And then another part of me is like, is there something, what is it in us that makes people want to run a marathon and these types of things? And it's interesting that you say that there is perhaps a primal or ancestral link.
Yeah.
So I'd love to chat more about that.
Yeah. Let's do it.
So thank you so much for being here, Zoe.
Thank you for asking me, Mary.
Bye.
It was great. Bye.